All right. So those are the options with the paintbrush tool. Those are the majority of the options that you would have. When it comes to the paintbrush, the pencil, your mixer brush, and some of the other different tools that utilize these painting options, those are the options that you'll have available. You'll have the brush settings. You'll have these options that I just covered in the options bar. There'll be other options depending on the tool that will change up specifically, but that's what you have. Now, let's go over to our pencil tool. So with the pencil tool, you the way this works is starts off kind of similar. You have your different brush types, but this time all the brushes are hard edge brushes. There is no soft edge brush with the pencil tool. All right. Even if you pick one of the soft edge brushes, um, the pencil tool is always going to create a hard edge uh, drawing or hard edge painting. So even if you pick the soft edge tool and the hardness is all the way down to 0, like I got right here, you're going to be painting with a hard edge brush, essentially. So no matter what the tool is, no matter what the shape is, it could be any one of these other, painting tools that's available, like this one here, this Kyle charcoal pencil. It's going to give you a hard edge brush effect there going on. So the brush itself has got this little stippled edge on it, hence the shape of it. It's kind of stippled, crazy looking stippled edge. So that's why I'm getting what looks like a faded edge, but it's not. It's just that stippling going on with that particular type of brush. So that's what gives you that advantage. Let's see. So that's the pencil tool. Similar options. You got the blend mode, you got the opacity, you have a flow, which should be kind of interesting to see what that does with this particular tool. Let's see if I turn this flow down. Click in one spot, see, I hardly get anything. But then when I click and drag, see, I get kind of it fades in. So one click looks like nothing happens. If I click and hold in the same spot, or click in the same spot, I get a couple of little dots floating around there, getting darker and darker. If I click and drag in the same spot, it starts to add in. It kind of like builds up. If I click and drag slowly, it's a little bit thicker line than if I go real fast. That's how the flow works. So this pencil tool that works pretty well. It's kind of like the paintbrush tool in that regards with that flow, depending on what you set it to. And that had to be set with low numbers for it to work well with that. All right. So pencil tool, do you use it a lot like you do the paintbrush tool? Not really. I use more the paintbrush than the pencil because limitations. Like a lot of times you don't have a lot of options when it comes to the brush that you want to use. You got the same options in the options bar, but you don't have the same choice of brushes in which to use because you're limited. Now, the mixer brush, let's talk about that one real quick because this one I can use without having another, uh, going through different colors and stuff. I want to make the brush kind of big so you can see this. In the options bar, what do you get with the mixer brush? First, with the mixer brush, you could pick your different types of brushes. There is a default one that they always go to. It's one of these oil paint brushes. There's more of them, and I'll show you the ones that I'll give you in the lecture, so that way you can pick from one of those if you want to. You'll be able to pick a size of the brush, but notice there's no hardness level to pick from, when it comes to this particular brush. With the mixer brush, you will be able to, uh, you got one extra option in here for loading and cleaning the brush. Now, if you've ever painted like Bob Ross style, with the painter's palette and painting on canvas, you have the ability to clean the brush that you are using with the painting, which allows you to kind of take the color that you were using away. And then you have a load brush, which allows you to pick the color that you want for your brush, say this purplish color here, and it loads it on so that way you can paint with it. Okay. The good part about this mixer brush, as you can see, the different brushes that you can paint with gives you this kind of smearing effect that you can use to blend these colors together. And what you also have besides that load and clean of the brush there, that you can play around with. You also have these two little buttons right here with clean the brush after each stroke. You can turn that on, or the other option is load the brush after each stroke. So it kind of reloads or cleans after every time. And that's like just kind of setting a default, one or the other. Custom right here, you have different brush types, and this is where things can get fun for the artistic type. You got different types of medium, dry medium, wet medium, with the brush. And this is where your artistic endeavors come into play, because you can pick different types of brushes, different sizes of brushes, and paint with it. And actually, it mixes the colors together. Now, you can get a better mix if you change the other options, like how the wet amount is, the load amount, so it's not loading as much. And then the main thing is this mix percentage. The higher you go with the mix percentage, the more those colors will blend together with your different brushes. So a lot of times what you end up doing, you keep swapping around to different types of brushes that you're able to use. And with these different brushes, you got different sizes that you can go with, different types of colors, and try not to use the same color. And you can smear and blend these different colors together, again, to be very artistic with what you're trying to do. And you're still not done, because if you go and open an existing picture, which is what I'm doing right now, where is my pictures that we have in our lesson? So I'm going to grab those, grab one of these pictures and kind of tear it up a bit. And this is where things can get kind of fun if you like this level of fun. I'm going to find a picture that has got some color to it already. Lecture 4. And I'm going to grab this picture here and open her up. When you open a picture that does not have the color profile that we set up in lecture 3, that you had set up, is asking you if you want to assign that picture to that profile. I usually do. That's the second radio button. So that way I get that. Now, with the mixer brush, I'm going to do a dangerous thing here. Something that I really don't like doing, but with the mixer brush, you have to do it this way. This layer that shows up in the layers palette, called background, it is my original information. It's like my digital negative for this photo. If I smear and mess around with this picture, it's going to mess up this picture, no, the original data. So if I do that, save the file, close it, and open it again, I'm stuck with whatever I did. So you got to be very, very, very careful right now. Do not save this at all. Just play around with it. And if you want to, you could do, before you even start playing, you can view a file and save as, to save this, like, say, on your desktop or some other location that's not where you originally got the file. So this way it's a completely different file. Also, when you're doing the save it as a Photoshop file instead of the original JPEG file or something like that. If you save it as a Photoshop file, you can also, if you want, you can give it a different name. I'll just call it Mixer Brush. Saving it on my desktop as a PSD file. All of these things add up to making a completely new file, not the original file, so I can do whatever I want to this thing, spindle, mutilate it, destroy it, and I'm comfortable with not mixing or messing anything up. So with this mixer brush, I can paint on this picture, right? And if you look at it carefully, it's like mixing the colors that are already here and smearing it with what's already with this new color that you're using. And you can get some very interesting effects depending on how you're painting this. You want to make sure that your mix percentage, your load percentage, and your mix percentage has got, well, I did the dry. I suppose I have it with, it's got to be kind of wet. So moist to very wet. Changing my flow. I forgot what this one was. oh, the smoothing amount, and I could start to play with this. And if you notice, it's kind of doing a smear effect on her outfit right here, based on this mix, the flow, and the load amount. So if I increase the load amount, uh, what's happening? Oh, it unloaded the color. Load the brush. It unloaded the color because that's why it wasn't showing me anything. So I can mix that with what's already there and kind of get this kind of smeared artistic kind of effect going on. Now I'm tearing this up on purpose because this is just not, well, it's a thing to do, but it's just not always the most fun thing to do, to kind of play with. But it can be, depending on how you are blending these colors together. You can create a very artistically based result out of what you do here with this. Now, here's the thing. You have to apply this directly to the layer. That's the only way that this works. That's why I don't personally like it, because there may be another way to do this without messing up the original layer, messing up the original artwork. But while I'm doing this, I want to show you something else that could be kind of cool. See how I painted over her face right here? Let's say I want to undo that, but I don't want to undo all the other things that I've done. So there's another tool here that's part of the painting tools. It's underneath the brush tool. It's the one that looks like a paintbrush with like an arrow rolling around it. It's called your history brush. Now, let's first talk about your history palette. If I go back to window and look for history, I can open up my history palette. Your history palette records up to 20, well, up to 50 to from 20 to 50 of the last things that you did to the picture. So it records each step that you've taken. So all the painting with the mixer brush, if I go back to my brush tool and start painting over things, it's recording all of these as different steps, right? Now, if I don't like that particular effect or what I did, I can always undo it by here in the layers, here in the history panel, clicking on the step prior to the one that I just did. So I can undo it and redo it whenever I feel like it. If I undo it, and then I go through the process of, say, picking a new color and maybe change, in this case, the blend mode and opacity a little bit, and then paint again, paint over this. So I get kind of an overlay painting over top of everything. See, it's adding those other elements in. It deleted the previous one that was there that I undid and now applied new ones. Now, the history brush tool. Let's talk about that. Your history brush tool, what that does, it allows you to brush back to a particular point in history. So if I look at all these different steps, all the way at the top is the originating picture, when I first opened this file. So all of those steps that I took, I can go back and undo everything all at once. But I don't want to do that. I want to just undo what I did around her face. I just want to bring this part of her face back. So if you look up here, there's this little icon that sits right next to the left of that particular step. All right. That little icon, there's an empty box where I can move that step to any particular step that I want to and move that icon. Basically, that icon lets you paint back to that particular point. So if I use this history brush tool, I can paint over top of this with whatever brush options that I want and kind of paint the effect away. So if I pick, let's say, one of these more artistic style type of brushes, and let's make it bigger. Let me undo that history brush step there and kind of paint over that. Oh, I'm not using the history brush anymore. Uh, Oh, it's not letting me pick that one because the brush that I picked was one of these artistic types, and I could paint on that, but I can't paint with the art history brush. With the history brush tool, I can't paint back with that. So I got to use one of the regular soft edge brushes. So I have to be able to paint this information back out by painting over that space. And then I can get her face back and fix that one little mistake that I did that I probably did 20 steps ago. All right. And paint everything back from all the craziness that I did. So any step, anything that I did, I can paint back with with the history brush. Now, there's another one here called the art history brush that's hidden underneath the history brush tool. The art history brush, this one's weird because you can get with the blend mode choices, with the opacity choice. You have different styles, which is and the only way to really show you what this does is actually to do it. So let me show you what this style here does. And an area that you could pick with a tolerance range, which is how much of influence you're going to do. Let me make the brush bigger so you can see this. I can paint back to a particular point, all right, with the history brush, but the art part does. It's not showing. Hold on. Let me turn the opacity up. Let me change the blend mode to normal so maybe you could better see. So what it's doing, it's painting back to that particular history point and bringing that information back, but you get these artistic kind of flow of a brush effect, and it's based on this style. Dab is the one that I kind of like the best because it has these little like kind of dotted pointillism kind of effect going on. But you got these different effects that, you know, makes this kind of artistic style kind of elements happening based on going back to this particular point. And with the art history brush, combined with the options you have, combined with going back to the history brush to restore back different areas, you can make something that looks kind of wild at first, but then you can restore certain elements back that you may want to keep that got destroyed. And you can bring certain things back and kind of get this real kind of artistic look to things. You can go overall with your paintbrush tools, with your mixer brush tools, with that art history brush tool, and make some madness, some textured madness, and then use the history brush tool to restore different parts back. I think that's kind of cool with the way that that works. It's very neat with how it does it, and it's just a matter of utilizing it, and it's being creative. And the lab that I'm going to have you do is going to have you be creative like this. Like pick these different tools, play with them, see what you get, see how colorful of a thing that you can make with playing with these things. It can be kind of fun. So now another thing that I want to have you do is colorize something. So let's get out of this. I don't need to save that. I don't need to save this one.